Hey everyone, before we get started, I just want to let you know that this is one of my absolute favorite podcasts that I've ever done and really goes through the thyroid in depth. However, my brand new microphone, just got this microphone, malfunctions a little bit. There's a little bit of fuzziness to the show. I hope that it does not take away from what I believe the quality of the education is. That after listening to this show, you will truly understand all the metabolic, all the stress, all the deficiency, and all the toxicity related issues around the thyroid. I do apologize that it's a little fuzzier than normal. We like to keep things HD here in stereo, but I hope the information is there for you. I apologize. I will make sure that going forward we have nice, crisp, clear shows. Enjoy the show. Feel free to give me your feedback. And I did not want to re-record this one because I really felt that the information was on point. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Great to have you with me here today. Excited to go over today's topic as always, but this in particular is one of the hottest topics out there right now. It is one of the most asked questions, the most frequently asked questions on the Cabral Concept from our community, and that has to do with everything surrounding the thyroid and metabolism. Now, the interesting thing is this, is that a lot of us think of the thyroid only in terms of its ability to help us lose weight or maintain a healthy weight. However, the thyroid has to do with so much more. So if you're having issues right now with any of these particular symptoms, I want you to examine the health of your overall thyroid, because your thyroid has much more to do with simply regulating your body weight, right? It has to do with everything from cholesterol regulation, how quickly or slowly your heart rate beats, overall muscular strength, and even neurological based control. It has to do with breath rate. It has to do with controlling your body temperature. One of the tests that we speak about all the time is taking your body temperature upon waking. Is it below 98 degrees Fahrenheit? If it is, there may be a slowing of the thyroid. Then we can go test that more in depth. It's not the only test, but it's one test to look for that. In terms of aging and bone loss, we blame that always on calcium, but the thyroid has a lot to do with that as well. Same with female menstrual cycles, right? Sometimes there's a missing cycle. Sometimes there's more estrogen dominant. Sometimes there's lower progesterone. Hormones such as cortisol and thyroid plays into those. Overall mood. How often do we try to blame low mood on a lack of sleep or a lack of something or too much of something, right? Too much alcohol or so the night before. Well, thyroid has a lot to do with that mood on a daily basis. And then overall energy, right? Overall energy is such a metabolic-based process. It's not just always, did I get enough exercise? Did I get enough sleep? It's on a daily basis. What do those mitochondria look like? How balanced is your thyroid in relation to your adrenal glands? And one more, a greatly overlooked one, and again, what I'm going to do today is give you the back episodes on the thyroid, and the reason is that there's no way just in one show that I can give you all the information on the thyroid. However, I have a lot of the hidden factors, a lot of the hidden triggers that the thyroid shows up as, so I'm going to give you that show today. I'm also going to give you the 4 toxins that slow the thyroid. So if you haven't listened to that podcast, I will embed that right on today's show to make it easy for you. I've been trying to do that lately. We do have 1,083 shows, so I'm trying to make it as easy as I can. But for all of those podcasts, plus the 2 nutrients that your body needs to make more thyroid to make thyroid properly. And you're going to see that today as well. So I'll link up those back episodes. Just go to stephencabral.com/1083 for some of those back shows. We've done many shows on how the adrenals affect the thyroid. I can't link them all up, but I will link up some thyroid-specific ones, and then you can go back and you can actually take a look at how the adrenal affects the thyroid way more than most people think, right? And that's why when we test the thyroid, we never test it in isolation without looking at cortisol levels, without looking at hormone levels overall, without looking at vitamin D, because vitamin D affects your thyroid. So exciting show here today. What I want you to understand is that even if you're not overweight, even if you're not looking to lose weight, you absolutely should be concerned about that thyroid, especially since if you're feeling a little puffy or your cholesterol numbers are off or any of the numbers or any of the factors and symptoms that I just spoke about before can be affected by the thyroid. So in order for us to really figure out what are the factors, how do we help heal the thyroid, right? That's what this is all about. So if you're a health practitioner, how do you help your patients or clients? If you're a personal trainer, if they're not responding to exercise, and if they're not responding to diet, and they're not responding to keto, which I wouldn't even say is a diet, right? Because it's not one of our normal diets. I call it more of a medical-based intervention that we can use every once in a while in the short term. But here's the deal. If it's not responding, we need to look deeper into the endocrine system. What are your hormones? So we need to look at estrogen to progesterone, right? We need to look at that ratio. We need to look at DHEA and testosterone. Those are important for fat burning. We need to look at your cortisol levels throughout the day. We certainly do not want them elevated, especially at night. Okay, but we also don't want them too low. You showed me someone with low cortisol. I don't even need to see them or meet them in my practice. I know that they're going to be low mood, low energy, low vitality, low everything, because there's no cortisol. Cortisol is important. We want to remember, it's all about equilibrium. It's all about balance. It's never about too high or too low. And then, of course, when we're looking at overall metabolism, we're looking at those thyroid numbers. So what does it mean? Like when you say, like, oh, I need my doctor to run my thyroid. Most doctors are only going to run your TSH. And you say, okay, well, what does TSH mean? And it's called the thyroid stimulating hormone. We say, like, well, what does that mean? And the thyroid stimulating hormone is essentially something that your hypothalamus, which is inside of the brain, right? The hypothalamus is actually a gland. We don't always think of it that way, but the hypothalamus is telling the pituitary gland. It's called the HPT axis. I've spoken about this, and I teach it in depth in the Integrative Health Practitioner certification and course. But what it does is it's basically saying we need to release more thyroid-releasing hormone, which we call it as thyroid-stimulating hormone. Okay, that stimulates, right? It's not in your thyroid, but the brain's telling the thyroid, which is basically this butterfly-shaped gland right in the neck area, and what it does is it begins then to produce two hormones called T4 and T3. And those are pretty easy to look at. What we're going to do is we're going to call T4 thyroxine and T3 triiodothyronine. And again, you don't need to know the names. There's no quiz. But when you go to your doctor, TSH is not enough. Not just running that one number is not enough. I'm going to show you why. Okay, so what we have is the brain telling the body, essentially, the thyroid, let's produce some thyroid. Now, if it's normal, under normal circumstances, you take your thyroid measurement in the morning. You don't take it at night, so we want typical thyroid. We want to get a reading between 0.5 and 2. I'll allow it in my practice to go up to 2.5 because of stress and other factors you'll find out in a moment, as long as T3 and T4 are okay. But if I see it creep above 2, and I see a little lower on the T3 and a little lower on the T4, I'm already going to begin. I'm not going to wait for someone to end up with Hashimoto's, or I'm not going to end up for them to have diagnosed hypothyroidism, which means low thyroid. I'm not going to wait for that, okay? What I'm going to do is start to work on those underlying root cause imbalances. We'll be talking about those in a moment. So the interesting thing about the thyroid is this. The higher the number, the higher the TSH, this is very confusing. It was confusing for me when I first learned it, no doubt about that. Now, you would think the higher the TSH, oh, well, the better your thyroid's working, right? The higher the number, hyper, fast, right? No, it's actually the opposite. The higher the number, the more hypo, which means low thyroid, you are. And I know it's super confusing because if you look at your blood sugar, and if you look at your insulin, and if you look at your cholesterol, well, high is high and low is low. It makes sense, right? Low blood sugar below a 70, high blood sugar above a 95. But what are we talking about, right? What are we talking about with the thyroid? Well, if your brain, hypothalamus, pituitary, are telling your thyroid to produce more thyroid, that means the body either doesn't have enough, it's being blocked, or it's being converted to what's called reverse T3 that we'll talk about as well. So a high number for your TSH, remember, anything above a 2, your PCP will let that number go all the way up to a 5. That's not healthy. Anything above a 3, for sure, is not healthy. In functional medicine, never allow it to get above a 3. But I'm going to start to work on it right after a 2.0. I will, without a doubt. So here's what we need to look at. The higher the TSH, the worse. Now, we're talking about a balanced thyroid, right? So below 0.5 is not healthy either. That means the body has either too much, right? Too much thyroid, doesn't know what to do with it, has too much, or there can be other factors as well, such as autoimmune-based issues, and in this case, it would be something called Graves' disease would be below 0.5, and above the 5 with higher antibodies, called TPO, that's just the number that it stands for, and we'll go through all of this in depth, is that could be Hashimoto's, right? So if you have higher antibodies, which is why we test TPO. And again, you can ask your PCP. Most likely they're not going to run these, but you always can ask, and you can always have this lab done on your own too. So it's completely up to you. You can do this right at home. Simple finger prick, that's it, just blood drops from the finger, and one finger prick, that's all it takes, and then saliva for the other hormones besides the thyroid, because the thyroid is always tested through blood, where cortisol, estrogen, DHEA, testosterone, progesterone can all be done through saliva. And actually, in my opinion, best done through saliva as well, because unless you have a phlebotomist show up at your home right upon waking, you're not going to be able to get an accurate cortisol upon waking, which is very important. And you want your cortisol before bed. So again, unless you have a live-in phlebotomist in your home, you're not going to be able to get the most accurate cortisol readings. Most likely, you'll be at your PCP at somewhere 9, 10 in the morning, and that is not upon waking cortisol, right? And it's not even the best time to test thyroid either. Remember, that's why, I try to explain on a lot of the interviews I go on, and people have different opinions upon whether it be sleep or whether it be different cycles the body goes through. Your body is specifically programmed to do certain things at certain times of the day. And you don't get to play universal nature. You don't get to do that, right? You don't get to dictate when your body does these things. Now, you can change it, but to the detriment of your own body, right? Your body can live off ketones, yes, but that's not ideal for the body. It can do it. It can do it. It can do a lot of things. It can go without water for 3 days or more. It can go without food for 3 weeks or more, right? That's not ideal, though, right? It's not ideal. We're trying to put ourselves in the ideal scenario, and that's really what we're talking about right now. So just a quick follow-up on this thyroid before we get into the factors that make the thyroid. I want you to know exactly how it works. So the Cabral concept, I'm trying to always make this about education. And you have a lifetime to educate yourself, your family, your children. Pass this on to your children and your loved ones. That's why I can't recommend enough going back and listening to the previous Cabral Concept podcasts. I know there's a lot. There's supposed to be a lot. The body's complicated. We don't just figure it out in one article online. So what I hope to do is create a body of work that's completely free, that you can access at any time, and you can search at StephenCabral.com/podcasts. And I'm not going to stop. So there will be 2,000 podcasts in another, almost 3 years from now, right? And what we're trying to do is build a very large database that's completely free, that's all functional medicine, all integrative health based, so that anyone can figure out exactly what's going on with their body if they choose to. Now remember, you're unique. Not a lot of people are going to listen to a podcast on their body, especially if they're not even suffering from thyroid issues. But it's the quest for knowledge. so that you're able to know what to do in the future. You're giving yourself the education that they would never teach in school. They don't even teach all of this as if you go back to become a naturopathic doctor. What I did was I'm obsessed with this, right? So this is an obsessive quality that I have. And what I try to do is just fuel it to something that I loved. And I did it originally to help myself get well. Then after that, I did it to help my family get well. And then from there, it's saying, well, I have this information. I'm going to open up a practice, which I did. And then after that, 20,000 appointments a year. It's saying, well, we need to be able to share this outside of my hometown, which is Boston, Massachusetts. For me, the past 3 years have been reaching people all over the world, and I just hope that you share this information with others. That's what it's all about. That's what the information is there for. It's no one's information to own. A lot of people, they'll try to sell you a specific ebook on all the things that we're going to talk about today. And I'm not against that. I'm not against it. Whatever gets people to take action is what I'm all about. But I won't let the dollar, right, the selling of a product, which I'm not against. Again, I'm totally not against that. And of course, we have a lot of in-depth work that you can do over at equilibriumnutrition.com, previous podcasts, etc. But what I don't want is there to be any barriers for anyone, no matter where they're at economically in life, in order to get this information. And again, your PCP is not going to have this information, and they're not going to take the time to explain it over the course of 25 minutes to you. So again, it doesn't mean that this is the end-all, be-all, and all of that. It's not. It's just saying that I just truly want you to get this information, to harness it, listen to previous podcasts, build upon your knowledge base. You will know this. There's no secrets. There's no mystery. If you listen to previous shows, you will develop, in my opinion, one of the strongest integrative health knowledge bases that you will take with you for the rest of your life and ideally pass it on to those that you care for. And if we all do that, what an amazing thing, right? So let's get into how this thyroid is actually made inside of your thyroid, right? Inside of that thyroid gland. Well, your body uses iodine. So it's using iodine-based molecules, and it's actually combining that, it's using that with an amino acid called tyrosine. Now, tyrosine can be used for many things. It's very interesting. I look at it as more of a stimulating-based amino acid. So would I use tyrosine in someone with overactive thyroid? Would I use tyrosine in someone that was already very lean? Would I use it in someone that has higher levels of cortisol? I would not, right? I would not. So that's why there's no all-for-one product. Tyrosine is a precursor to dopamine, and it's also used with iodine to make thyroid hormone. Now, inside of that thyroid gland, your body's going to make T4 and T3, all right? But here's the interesting thing. About 80% of all the thyroid your body makes is T4. Now, the problem is this, that the most active form of thyroid, that's why even if you have elevated T4, what really matters is T3. What's your T3 level? Because T3, although it only makes up 20% of the thyroid, the actual hormone made in the thyroid, it makes up about 70+% of usable and active thyroid in the body. Now, how does that happen? Well, only 20% is going to be made in the thyroid for T3. However, that T4 can be used and converted inside of your body's tissues, namely the liver and kidneys, but also in the skin, also the brain. There's other areas as well that can make it, just at a lesser amount. So we can actually use T4 as long as we have the nutrients in our body. That's why I talk about deficiencies all the time. As long as we have the nutrients to be able to convert T4 to T3. Well, what might be some of those missing nutrients? Let's talk about that now. So the factors that affect our thyroid. Remember, this is all available to you. You have all this information, and you can begin to understand why the body is this beautiful chemistry set. And that if you know how to use it, you can figure out anything that's wrong with the body. That there are no mystery-based illnesses. There are only underlying root cause imbalances at a systems-based level. And we need to figure out what the deficiencies are, and then we need to figure out what the toxicities are, right? Deficiencies can be low thyroid. We'll talk about that. Toxicities can then lead to the autoimmune-based issues. Very important to look at both. Okay, so when I look at a person, I'm saying, what are some factors that could lead to an imbalanced thyroid? And always I'm looking at all the cofactors that the thyroid hormone needs for certain conversions. And those are your B vitamins, right? And a good activated B complex or good overall B vitamins from the body. But remember, if your body's under stress, it uses up your B vitamins at a faster level. And your thyroid absolutely needs vitamin B2, vitamin B3, B6, and it will use, if there's methylation issues and if there's inflammation issues, folate and B12 as well. Now, what else is used? Well, vitamin C, vitamin D we spoke about earlier, and vitamin E as an antioxidant to help to prevent free radical damage. Now, when you're going to your PCP or endocrinologist and they give you levothyroxine or they give you some other type of thyroid hormone, they're completely overlooking all of the cofactors that you may be missing as to why you have low thyroid right now. Are they even talking about the iodine we spoke about? Are they talking about iron? Are they checking for anemia? I mean, how do you check for thyroid issues without checking for also, what are your levels of selenium like, right? What are your levels of zinc? How about your levels of tyrosine? It's a tougher one. It's a harder one to look at, but we can look at it from a dopamine perspective, which is downhill on an organic acids test. What about levels of vitamin A? What about zinc, right? What about parasympathetic terms in terms of activities like calming the nervous system? What about exercise to boost the metabolism, to get your body more balanced, right? To get your body burning body fat. So we look at that, like these are great things that we need at a cellular level for conversion. And then some of the things, besides the deficiencies that I talk about, what are the toxicities? What are the things that can truly affect your body's ability to convert thyroid hormone or make enough of it? Stress, it's easily the biggest one. And that's why on the thyroid adrenal hormone test that we do, and this is an at-home test that anyone can do, because remember, you don't have to ask your doctor anymore. You have the ability to find an online functional medicine practitioner, an online integrative health practitioner that can get these labs to you and you can do them right at home. But again, even if you never do the labs, you need the information because you could begin to act on it from a lifestyle perspective. Higher levels of cortisol are absolutely over time going to throw off people who are more susceptible to a lower thyroid. That's when, again, genes do matter, but they don't matter if the lifestyle and environment didn't trigger it first, right? Or gut-based issues. We'll talk about that. Fluoride. Fluoride and chlorine are two great ways to lower your thyroid. So if you want to lower thyroid, you can drink tap water that contains fluoride in it, right? Same with chlorine, because you're going to wipe out your iodine. That's why, right? So fluoride is toxic to the thyroid. Why will it wipe out iodine? Well, it doesn't actually. Iodine is used to wipe out the chlorine because chlorine's a poison to the body. So your body has to eliminate it. Well, iodine is phenomenal at detoxing chlorine, radiation exposure, etc. That's why it's great to have a little bit of iodine with you at home. It's a great, first aid emergency type thing. It's unbelievable. I'm going to save that for a topic for another day. And I actually did a show on iodine. If you're ever interested, I did last year. I did all the super nutrients of the week every Friday. Every single show, every Friday. 52 weeks we did it. And on July 27th, we did a show on iodine. So go back, check out that show if you'd like. July 27th, or just type in iodine at stephencabral.com/podcast and you'll find it. Let's talk about some other toxins, though, for the thyroid. Cadmium, lead, mercury, aluminum. And I'm going to lean towards arsenic and bromine as well. Those are food-based substances often used in preservative-style processed foods such as bread. Well, how many of us have eaten bread growing up, right? A lot. You get bromide in there, and you've got bromines from that, and you also often have cadmium as well. Arsenic, right? Contaminated food can contain arsenic without a doubt. Contaminated water can contain arsenic. So all of these factors as well, pesticides, and then what I would say is gut-based, leaky gut, intestinal permeability issues. That's why we try to always run an organic acids test with anyone with autoimmune issues or thyroid issues as well, because GI issues, so a leaking of proteins through the gut wall, is going to trigger that immune system. And if you're genetically susceptible, well, then yes, it can target the thyroid as well. But it's not your thyroid's fault. Thyroid didn't do anything wrong, right? Immune system didn't do anything wrong. Clean up the gut. Get rid of the SIBO. Get rid of the candida. Get rid of the H. pylori. Get rid of the parasites. Seal up the gut wall. Watch those autoimmune diseases, diseases of the body, imbalances begin to magically or not so magically disappear. So we want to look at the medications, everything we're putting in our body as a potential toxicity, and all of the good foods that we're eating, we need to make sure that they're high enough in those vitamins and those minerals and those amino acids that I talk about. Because there's not a mystery as to how the brain and the hypothalamus and the pituitary glands, called the HPT axis, your hypothalamus pituitary thyroid axis, not adrenal, but thyroid axis, begins to regulate the thyroid. And it's not a mystery as to how we make thyroid hormone. All right? We have tyrosine. That's why when you look at our product, Daily Thyroid Support, there's not a better product on the market. But here's why. Inside of that product, we put exactly what your thyroid needs. But we even go a step further. We add all the cofactors. And we know that stress is such a big issue with people. So yes, we have the potassium iodine. Yes, we have the tyrosine. We have a lot of other great nutrients in there as well. You're welcome to check it out, but I'm not going to go in depth on what that product is because it has to be the right choice for the right person, right? But here's the thing. We also add in things for the adrenals. We add in things for stress. We know how well those work with the thyroid. And everyone should be using one of our daily foundational protocols along with any individual supplement. Remember, you can't just cherry pick the supplements, right? Like if you want more energy, you can't just use ubiquinol or coenzyme Q10. Sure, great product. I have no problem with it. But if you're not using something like our daily foundational protocol, which is giving you all of the other vitamins, all of the other electrolytes and cofactors, what's the point of using one nutrient? No one is missing one nutrient. The body doesn't work on one nutrient. As you just saw today with the thyroid, it works on synergies. If you're missing one, it throws off the other. You can't just add one in there. So that's my highest recommendation to you today. It's how we help people every day in my practice. I can't even begin to tell you how many people we've helped to recover from thyroid issues, whether it be autoimmune or low thyroid or higher thyroid, because it's about looking at the whole body, not just one gland. It's about understanding that the thyroid is affected by the adrenals, it's affected by vitamin, amino acid, nutrient-based deficiencies, and it's also affected by toxicities. I explain this all in depth in my book, The Rainbow Effect, but also I just explain it here today. And that's why I will continue to give you this information each and every day. I just ask if it was helpful, if you could simply pass this on to anyone you believe it can serve. And if you're looking for, well, what do I do now? What's the next action step? I can't recommend enough a at-home lab that you can do called the thyroid adrenal hormone. It will tell you exactly what's going on with all the hormones in your body. That's progesterone, estrogen, DHEA, testosterone, cortisol for stress, vitamin D. It will look at your thyroid levels as well, all of them. Now, here's the other thing. If you're able to add one more onto that, I couldn't recommend enough looking at the organic acids test. And if you get one more, it would be the hair tissue mineral analysis. So that equates to running the thyroid adrenal hormone plus our starter kit, which includes the organic acids test and the hair tissue mineral analysis. Now remember, if you can't run them all, but you know you have metabolic issues, you can't lose the weight, or you have any symptoms that I spoke about in the beginning, poor circulation, cold hands and feet, thinning of the hair, thinning of the eyebrows, drier skin, we have higher cholesterol, all the things that I named in the beginning, right? If you have any of those issues, if you can only run one, you're going to run the thyroid adrenal hormone. It's an amazing lab. We help people all over the world. We ship these labs to 19 different countries, and we would love to be able to help you as well. For those people just looking to give a boost to their thyroid, and they're already using one of our daily foundational protocols, that's when I recommend the daily thyroid support. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support. Thank you for tuning into the Cabral Concept Daily. I appreciate all of your support, all of your reviews on iTunes. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great day. Thank you so much for just tuning into the show. I truly value and appreciate you. And since you are such a valued listener, what we're doing right now, this is for podcast listeners only. For the next couple days while supplies last, we are offering 10% off store-wide on our CBD products. That includes our best-selling 750 milligram bottle of CBD oil. What we are giving you right there is a full spectrum, not an isolate, but a full spectrum CO2 extracted, organically grown CBD oil. It is the most potent, best and most popular product out there in terms of CBD products. We were one of the originators of it. We still work with our organic farmers. We still use full spectrum, and we still make sure that it's legal in all states, keeping it below the 0.3 THC. It's an amazing product. We literally get success stories every single day from that product. The same one also comes in a smaller dosage, 10 servings versus the 30 servings, and that's called our travel size. Feel free to check out both of those at StephenCabral.com/CBD-store. And we just added our regular and decaffeinated coffees. Why did we add those? Because so many people out there enjoy their coffee. They love their coffee, but they don't want the anxiety, they don't want the jitters, they don't want the increased heart rate of drinking coffee. They want the antioxidants, and with adding CBD to it. Now, we don't just add it, we infuse the beans with the CBD oil. So you're getting a 500 milligram bottle. That's over $69 just for that. And we're infusing that with a full bag of coffee beans. Now, they're organically single-source beans from Peru for the regular, and the decaffeinated come from Mexico. They are all organic, and they're absolutely phenomenal. People literally all over using this. We're getting a ton of success stories on those as well. I wanted to make this fun deal for you. Podcast listeners only. No one else will know about this. It's not on equilibriumnutrition.com. You know they won't allow us to sell it over there. So go to StephenCabral.com/CBD-store and enter the promo code CBD10. That's CBD10 at checkout for 10% off while supplies last.